You're listening to Wild Culture, a podcast discussing consumer culture and the powerful influence of business strategy. Good morning. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Tanyika, brand and consumer insight mentor, and today we're talking customer service. You know, for a couple of years now, I've noticed, and I'm sure you've noticed this one too, the customer service is really lacking in places that it just shouldn't be. And it's really crippling business growth. Often in business, we tend to be really quick to blame the market, politicians, what's happening overseas, and we don't look closely enough at what's going on in our business, on the front line, where we meet and greet and serve our customers, and how we end up in a place where those decisions are well thought out. Now, I'm really talking about all different types of businesses here. So everything from your local coffee shop right through to clothing stores, department stores, you know, massive big businesses, the local courier, if you can name it, it can be affected by really poor customer service. It's an all-industry observation where customer service standards have really slipped. So what you might have noticed is that you can walk into a lot of shops these days and the service representatives just don't even care that you're there. Like, care factor is zero. There's actually one coffee shop not too far from where I am, not local, but not too far, where they won't even crack a smile. And they seem to get really upset if you even walk up to the counter. Like, how dare you want to pay me to make a coffee for you? And if you walk in with kids, you are like the devil, which makes this idea of working in a coffee shop on your laptop while sipping your chai latte more of, you know, some kind of fantasy daydream idea than anything that could really take place, because you're not welcome, right? But it can happen in a lot of other ways, right? So, for example, you might go into, you know, a department store and you go to look for a customer service person and they just run away from you. They're suddenly very, very busy and they need to be doing something else. So you end up waiting a very, very long time for somebody to come along and to help out. Or, you know, sometimes it happens in the online arena as well. And you might, you know, use the message system on Facebook and send them a message and say, hey, just wondering about XYZ. And what you find is you don't hear back from them for like 5 days. So there isn't that responsiveness and the care and the attention that customers need that helps them want to be able to spend money with the brand isn't there. So they're not being grabbed. Customers aren't being taken care of these days. Now, from my perspective, the 90s and the very early 2000s was the peak of customer service. And I tend to think that in all of the efforts to optimize and reduce overheads in business and just to get bums on seats, because hiring in frontline roles is hard at the moment. It's hard at the best of times. In all of that, brands have lost the quality of customer service because stores and cafes years ago, brands, they really cared about making customers happy because companies knew back then that good customer service increased sales and the number of loyal customers that would buy from the brand. What that looked like was service with a smile. Service representatives who were going out of their way to tend to you as a customer, really trying to anticipate what you might need, why you walked into the store, and understanding that treating a customer poorly had consequences for the brand's reputation. How you treat and serve and manage a customer is what we call the customer experience, right? It's the experience where the customer feels welcomed and attended to, and it makes it easy for the customer to feel good about spending with your business. But it's not a sexy field, right? So at the moment, there is a very real and genuine problem where businesses are struggling to recruit people into these roles. And what I would say to anyone who is at the beginning of their career or wanting a change, please, please, please do not overlook customer service roles. And don't think that the field is pointless because AI is going to magically come through and gobble up all of these roles. If there is a physical store it needs people physically in that store offering customer service. If a business has any interactions in any way, shape or form with the customer, then it needs people who really get customer service. I actually tell my kids to start their careers in customer service because it teaches you how to read people, how to understand and interpret what they need, how to understand what is missing in the market on the shelves. And I'd actually go so far to say that if you want to be in any type of high level position in your career, as an executive or as a senior manager or an entrepreneur, your success as a leader in those roles will be a direct reflection of how good you are at understanding people and serving customer needs. So it's a skill that the earlier you can learn, the more it becomes a natural part of the way that you think about business. Because obviously, if you don't have customers, you don't have a business. You need them to succeed. So you really want to nurture it as a skill. That being said, I will admit that I have a biased perspective on this because I'm thinking back to my days early in my career where I was working at places like Just Jeans and Bras and Things, and the training and the standard for customer service that was required from us back then was incredible. But I think we were also, as service representatives, we also wanted to gift good customer service to customers. That was just the consumer culture of the time. But I had an excellent experience in customer service, and it still helps me to understand consumers today. And I still reflect back on it from time to time and different lessons that I learned and how I can pull those through. And they still serve me today. So I got my start at Just Jeans in the alterations team, which was not something that I initially thought of as a customer service type role, but I was studying fashion design at the time. So it was a great foot in the door to the world of fashion retail because I didn't have any other store type experience. But it gave me that role working with a big brand name. And because my alteration station was at the back of the store in the change rooms, a lot of my role was also sales and customer service and helping customers get the right fit jeans. So I was in this position, this location in the store where customers would come out of the change room and they'd see me and they would ask for advice. And they'd ask, do these jeans look all right on me? Does this fit okay? But sometimes they'd make comments like, oh, I really like these, but they're a little bit long, or, they might find that they have sway hips. So, they'd need them pinched in at the waist for them to fit perfectly. So I got really good at closing the sale by upselling those customers into an alteration, but doing in a way that made those customers feel that they were getting a customized pair of jeans that fit their body perfectly. And it taught me a lot about the power of offering more to customers and actually thinking a little bit laterally in terms of how you can help them achieve whatever it is that they're after. I ended up working for Just Jeans for a number of years, and I gradually moved through sales and customer service roles and into visual merchandising. But one day I got a call from the manager at a nearby Just Jeans store because there were two of them close together in the city. And the manager at the other store had a very, very unhappy customer who wanted to return their jeans. And the customer had said something along the lines of that they were faulty because one of the legs of the jeans was longer than the other. And the store manager couldn't tell if they were or not. So she knew I understood the product and how to work that out because of my alterations role. So she asked me to come and have a look. But, and this is an important part, that manager also wasn't afraid to ask another team member to help serve a customer and to figure it out so that the customer could be happy, because nobody wants an unhappy customer. It's not the goal of customer service. You want to fix it for them. And particularly when it comes to returns, you want to reduce that as much as possible. So you want to figure it out. When I got to that other store, I asked the customer to pop into the change room and to try them on so I could have a look. Really simple thing. And they were happy to do it because they wanted to prove the issue, right? And what I discovered just through talking to the customer and doing the measurements that I knew to do is that the real issue was that the customer had one leg longer than the other, which she admitted but felt embarrassed to do. All she needed was just one side of the jeans shortened, which was actually really common. And when I was working in alterations, customers came in and asked for that all the time, and they were openly aware of that was something that they needed. So it just became something I was familiar with. And I don't know if that came across in the way that I offered that to her, but I was able to reassure her that it was common. And so I think that might have made a bit of a difference. But the important clincher here is that particular store had a sewing machine. So I just offered the alteration on the spot. And 15 minutes later, she left a happy customer with the same pair of jeans that she'd walked in with. Now, that type of thing doesn't happen too often these days. In fact, I don't even know if Just Jeans still has those same alterations bars, but that was a great thing to do. Now, during my time with Bras and Things, they would train customer service staff in the 5 steps of the sale. And the first step was to greet every single customer that entered the store. And it wasn't just about saying hello and being warm and that component that comes with customer service. It was also a security thing, because customers who are greeted in a store are less likely to steal because they know that you've seen them and that you're aware that they're in the store. So again, another very, very simple thing that comes from offering customer service. What Bras and Things, B&T as we used to call back in the day, did really well was training us that if you asked a customer, hey, how you going? Can I help you find something in particular? And the customer gave you, a really polite bugger off. They trained you to send someone else to ask again in a few minutes. Because sometimes the customer service can happen too quick, and you might have found yourself in that position before. Before you're ready to have a conversation with someone, before you figured out what the store's about, you might have just come off the phone and you're just getting your bearings. But sometimes the customer will tell you to go away or, say thanks, but no thanks. I'm just browsing. Sometimes they say that because they don't like the color of your hair. They don't like the tone of your voice, or maybe you're wearing something that reminded them of someone that they don't like, their mother-in-law or something, some grisly story that they've got. So because of things like that, we were trained that we should tag team with our colleagues in customer service. So you'd have a better chance of actually giving the customer service if you sent in your work buddy to say hello and offer the service in a couple of minutes. Now, looking back on my time with those 2 employers and what I learned from them, none of it was really complicated. Like, customer service is really simple stuff. The problem is that people overcomplicate it, or they just don't want to do it because they think it's beneath them, which is the ego coming out. Or sometimes they are just not confident speaking to people. And the best way to work through that one is actually just to speak to more people. But sometimes people just aren't even aware that it's something that you should do. One of the other troubles with customer service, and it's why many businesses aren't offering better customer service or a better customer experience, is the misconception that you need a written customer service charter or a customer experience strategy. And the belief that having a strategy is the most important thing you can do in your business. And you can't do anything until you have that piece of paper laying out all of the things and all of the plans. I think this comes from our tendency to be over compliant, particularly the bigger the business gets, that we have to have everything worked out perfectly on paper before we can start, and things need to go through a chain of approvals from, top level hierarchy down to the front line. Thinking about this, I actually took a call from a friend the other day, and she's working on a business plan for a small business that needs more customer leads and customer conversion. So that's what we would call a growth or a sales strategy, right? But anytime you present anything to a customer, it's actually part of a customer service strategy. It doesn't really matter what your goal is. If it interfaces with the customer, then whatever it is that you do is a manifestation of your customer service or customer experience strategy. Now, my friend said to me, and I tell you this just to demonstrate how much weight we put in these pieces of paper, these documents, these strategies. She said, I need you to read this one because I feel like I nailed it. I feel like this is the best one I've ever done. And she's been working on this plan for so long because she's scared. She's scared she's going to get it wrong. But I had to tell her, your customers don't care about your strategy on paper. They care about what you do. I'll say that again because it applies to everyone in business. Your customers don't care about your strategy. They're not interested in that piece of paper and its existence. They care about what you actually do because that is the thing they want and they are willing to pay for. So anytime you're putting together a plan and it has a portion that is going to interface or be interacted with by customers at a touch point, then you need to be thinking about what you're actually doing for your customers in that moment of interaction. So are you going to be rude to them? Are you going to run away from them in store? Or are you going to be kind? Are you going to be attentive? That's what they're looking for. So what my friend was actually looking for was a validation of her skills. And she has incredible skills in writing. But she was still doubting and procrastinating on the decisions that were inside that plan because she hadn't gone out and started yet. So she kept trying to perfect this document over and over, which is why she'd spent so long on it. What she needed to do was step into it as though she was a real customer moving through it and then go out and do that. So the point that I want to make here is that for all of the emphasis that is put on having a strategy and making sure you've got one and getting that ticked off the list, everything goes out the window if you don't put it into action, if you cannot operationalize it. Often in business, we're great dreamers. Some of us are not great doers. But a good strategy lives in the movement, in the execution, in the action of it. It doesn't matter how great or how amazing the strategy reads in words. It doesn't matter how great your graphs are on the page, or if you've got like some sort of project management initiative plan scheme, then it's all, process mapped and all that sort of thing. It doesn't matter. Until you do something, all you've done is proven that you can think. You've not actually produced anything tangible for your customers to interact with or buy yet that proves it works, that proves that your thinking was right. Lots of entrepreneurs work out their strategy on the fly as they start up their business and start doing things and realize, whoops, hey, now we need this over here, or, oh, we need that there. This is working. That's not. Let's tweak this. Let's keep doing that. Let's stop that. Lots of entrepreneurs also make changes because real customers start giving them feedback. So they start to tweak and make changes when things come to the surface and reveal themselves as being, it's not necessarily about, as I said before, it's not necessarily about perfection. I think we get trapped in this thought of everything's got to be perfect before I go out to market and before I start doing things. It's not. And customer service is very simple. It's kindness, it's care, it's attention. When we're talking about growth strategies in particular, some customer service interactions aren't foreseen until the business scales to the point where a channel is opened or starts getting a high volume of interactions. So a good example here is when I built my very first website for my fashion brand over 20 years ago. When a customer used the Contact Us form, it didn't have thanks for your message, we'll get back to you in 24 hours or whatever. It didn't have that sort of notification pop up on the screen. One, because 20 years ago, websites were pretty primitive. But at that time, building a website, it just mattered most that the form existed. So that was the length of customer service that I knew I needed to produce at that point in time. So eventually, as the brand started to grow, as I got better at web development and understanding the digital experience, I needed to think about how I was managing my customers' expectations so that I wasn't creating the pain of, oh my God, when are they going to get back to me? I sent this message yesterday. I still haven't heard. You've got to make it clear to customers what you're going to do. And that actually becomes the brand experience. The things that you repetitively do tell the story of what your brand is about. They're the things that you build loyalty from and that customers want. It's not just the brand name and the label. It's the service experience that you're actually offering. And I think a great example of this is if you have two nearby coffee shops, they can both make great coffee. But if one remembers your name and remembers your order and they know you're local and, they want to have a little quick chat with you, you're going to go to them. Unless you don't want to talk to somebody, then you're going to go to the other one. If you don't want to be known and you want to be invisible, then you go to the other one. But most customers love it when you go to a coffee shop and they say, hey, g'day Tanyika, great to see you. Another cappuccino today? Awesome. Coming right up. That sort of customer service is what helps people come back because they feel important to the business. But you still need to change what you're doing over time. So as your customer service evolves, as your business grows, as you get more customers, as you start working out the needs of what your customers need in an interaction and what they're doing, your plan, your strategy needs to evolve as well. It needs to get bigger, has to scale. It has to become more intricate. So if you do create a customer service charter or a customer experience strategy, then it's more about creating a fixed goal or a series of goals for the team to work to, which means it is a series of hardened KPIs centered around what your business is doing next, which is great because teams and big teams especially need those KPIs to make sure they deliver, that they do the thing for customers. Big businesses can have a lot of layers in the hierarchy, which means that where the strategy lives is often not where it's executed. So there's this difference between the corporate world and the frontline. And those are the two worlds that a paper strategy is trying to bring together. So the ideals that the executive have need to be brought into what's happening on the front line. And this is why I said earlier that it's really important to nurture and develop your skills in customer service at the beginning of your career, regardless of how high you want to succeed and go in your career. Because if you do want to be an executive, you don't want to be disconnected by what is very real customer service that you want implemented in your business on the ground. Before we had this rise in the use of strategic planning and strategy documents and strategy consultants and strategy sessions, we just had leaders with people who followed them because they spoke clearly and enthusiastically and they knew what they were talking about and they were passionate about their customers. The world has brilliant examples of leaders who do this still and who have done this in the past. So if you're looking for a great role model to look at what they did, you can think about people like Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos. These are people who love their customers. They had a proven track record of performance because of their aptitude and empathy and knowing of how customers want to be treated. And they had this belief in what they were doing and they really lived and breathed a passion for doing good things for customers and treating them well because they understood the impact of that to their bottom line. Nowadays, we're grossed out by the words enthusiasm, aptitude, can-do attitude, and proven track record. And so much so that we're told these words are outdated, that we shouldn't use them on our resume, that they are too simple, that they won't get you a job, and human resources is bored of hearing those words, right? But what we've done by listening to that advice is removed words that people need to hear to be inspired towards a goal and to communicate the qualities we can deliver to customers, or that we must communicate to customers to fulfill their needs. So we're actually removing words that help the strategy succeed. To offer good customer service, you've got to be inspired by delivering it. It's something you have to believe in. You have to value giving good customer service, and every person on your team that you hire also needs to believe in and value it as well. That's why those words are important. If every member of your team isn't obsessed with your customers, and not in the creepy way, I'm talking about having a real, proper enthusiasm to serve them to the best of your ability and to really make their day great by saying hello to them, by being attentive, by being kind, by asking questions, by going out of their way to try and find them a solution because they have a can-do attitude. These are the qualities that move people. They are the difference between a customer buying your product or service and feeling good about it, but they are also the qualities needed to make a customer strategy succeed when it goes from paper into the real world, because those words and those sentiments resonate with people. So I will leave you with a question for today. Is your business showing your customers that you care about them, or just their money? That's it for today. Till next time. Thanks for listening in to Wild Culture. If you found value in listening to our conversation today, please make sure you follow or subscribe to the show wherever you listen. Taking a quick moment to leave us a rating or review is the best way you can help other curious strategists and passionate spenders find us as well. Bye for now.